David here with Figboot on pens, and today I have something a little bit different for you. It's not a review of a pen, although I do have two very nice pens to show you. Something I get asked on a fairly regular basis, and I see this question online as well, is where is a reliable place to purchase and sell used fountain pens? There are a number of places like eBay or RPenSwap on Reddit or the Fountain Pen Network classified section, as well as other sites. While I have personally used a couple of those over the years with no issues, you do hear horror stories every so often of bad experiences people have in the secondary market. Back in my early days of collecting, I actually went to a large fountain pen auction where they were selling off someone's high-end collection at a physical auction house near Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a lot of fun, and I was able to pick up my Mont Blanc 149 for $350, I believe, which was a great price. But considering it took the majority of a day to drive there and back, it wasn't the most efficient process. Today, I wanted to share with you a marketplace run by an established and well-respected retailer, The Pleasure of Writing, which is based out of beautiful Carmel, California. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about how their marketplace runs and what to expect if you are selling or buying. And then I have two very nice pens which are currently on the marketplace to share with you to give you an idea of the types of things you can find there. The marketplace was started back in 2023, and they're currently getting about 1,000 unique visitors today to the site. They don't contend that this will be like the cheapest buying option. This isn't necessarily the place that you're going to look for a bargain, but what you will find here is a good place to buy and sell quality pens for a fair price. They do have a wide variety of price points. The last time I checked, they had everything from a $49 Kaweco Lilliput to a $100,000 Cartier Diamond pen. If you're a seller, there are a couple of different options. All of the specific fees are laid out on their site, but if you'd care to essentially do everything yourself in regard to the posting, you can do so, where you would be shipping the pen to the buyer once it sells, or for a different set of fees, you can send the pen off to the store, and then they can take care of everything for you, taking professional photos and handling all the shipping. If you're a buyer on the site, you basically see everything currently available and you can filter out the items which are sold out. But I like that they give you the option to see the sold out items so you can get a good idea of the types of models that they've previously sold and at what price they sold for. There's even a pens wanted section, which I like. I think this is pretty neat because I've been there where I was searching for a hard to find Grail pen. So what you do is you fill out a form and put in what you're looking for. And when a pen matches your criteria, the shop will reach out to you directly to let you know. It's a great way of increasing your chances of getting your hands on something that's been eluding you. Okay, The Pleasure of Writing sent me over two pens on loan which were on their marketplace to give you an example of the types of things that you could find there. Unfortunately, neither of them is that $100,000 Cartier pen, but they are still very nice. So, in order to take a look at these two classic offerings, please join me over here at camera 2. First of all, when you make a purchase from the marketplace, they actually provide you with a little sleeve here. And this, I know it barely fits in the frame, or it doesn't fit in the frame, but what impressed me about these sleeves is the size of the pens that it could hold. So I put a Namiki Emperor in here, and it fits in fine. Sometimes with larger pens like the Emperor, it just barely squeezes in, or you feel uncomfortable about putting it in there, but there is plenty of space in here. So I would have no qualms in carrying that around in there. And then I wanted to test it out, pretty much the largest pen in my collection, which is this Vazir Horizon. You can see how large. I have to have it catty cornered. It barely fits in here like this. But it fits in here just fine as well. So I enjoy the size of these. And it's a little bit of the harder material, kind of a harder vinyl-like plastic that is like lined on the interior. So it's something that I really feel kind of protects your pens well. And so that's a nice inclusion to have. I mentioned that they sent along 2 pens that are on their marketplace. Now, I don't know if they're currently on the marketplace or maybe they took them down since they sent them to me, but this is a good example of the types of pens that you'll see there, and quite possibly you'll see these 2 specific pens here. I mentioned that if you well, maybe I don't know if I mentioned this. If you don't have a box, if you are selling it, your pen, then they will actually put it in a nice box like this. And so this is a box that is the type of box that they will put your pen in, and this particular pen that they sent me is the Aurora 80th anniversary fountain pen. This pen is really nice. It was made to celebrate in 1999 Aurora's 80th anniversary. Since the company was founded in 1919, this was a limited edition of 1919 units. Kind of the distinguishing feature on this pen, it is made from sterling silver, is this basically weaved guilloche pattern, and I really like that. It just really adds some life to the pen, especially as you're twisting it around. It just doesn't look dull and flat, and it just kind of gives it some vibrance. I do like here on the ends, we're not doing a full review on this pen, but going over some of the parts and features, there is a resin here at the back that is a deep maroon, and then I do like this patterning here that doubles here on the near the end of the finial, and then we have the cap, and then over here we do have the number of the pen, and again it does say Aurora on a really nice stamped band. The barrel tapers down, and then it does come to a rounded end. This is a piston pen, and then even has some really nice kind of engraving work right here on the end of the clip with that numbering on there. The cap twists off with just over 1 rotation, and underneath we have this number 6 18-karat gold nib. I have been a big fan of Aurora nibs, that they do make those in-house, and that they've been very pleasant. And this looks to be an ebonite feed, which is nice. And that then we have the section, which is again that deep maroon in its concave here in the middle and has a bit of length to it. I feel that it feels very comfortable in the hand and very ergonomic with that deep swale in here. Then you can see it's a very narrow ink window, but it is a piston filler, and you can see the ink situation that's in there, but it is very narrow. But this is one of the pens that is available on their website. I believe this sold originally typically for about $2,600. But on their marketplace, this is a previously used pen, but you could fool me. It looks in brand new condition in my eyes, but I believe it was selling for around $1,900 on the marketplace. It's something that I do enjoy. And next up, the second pen they sent is a classic, and a pen I own and definitely enjoy, which is the Pelikan M800. This is the blue-black model, which is exactly the model I have. Except, you know what? I have the M805. The M805 has silver trim on it, as opposed to the M800, which has this gold. And I've always enjoyed the little pagoda finial here on the end, and then the pelican nose or pelican beak for the clip. I guess they don't have noses, they have beaks. And then just the blue stripe patterning. I've just always very much enjoyed the blue stripe, and I don't believe they've yet to come out with an M1000 in the blue stripe, or else I would have picked one up, because I really enjoy this blue, and while I have a green 1000, that blue is just fantastic. And then also it is kind of hard to see. I wouldn't say it's the best ink window, but in between those black areas here, between the coloring, you can see through it just a little bit in order to get a look at the at your ink situation. You know what? Let me try this. This might not be good pointing it right to the camera, but you can see here, putting a light behind it, you can really see through there, and you can actually see the piston mechanism. That turned out nicer than I thought it would. So you can see through here slightly, but in practice, it's whenever I've been using one of these pens, it's really hard to see your ink situation through there, but you can kind of see it in there. Oh, and just for comparison, here it is with my M805. So you can see the 805 has the silver trim, and then the 800 has the gold. On my 805, it does have the silver colored nib, and then here on the 800, it does have the two-tone nib. Here, let's take a closer look at that nib. I really like the looks of Pelikan's nibs. I just always thought that they looked really classy. You can see on this particular pen, the nib is a left-footed oblique. I don't believe Pelikan currently manufactures an oblique nib, so this would appear to have been done by a talented nibmeister. I took a look at it under the loupe, and it looked very nice and very nicely done. And then we have the plastic feed. The section on these Pelikan pens are rather short. It does begin with a little bit of a flare and then angles up to those threads, and then basically a smooth transition to the remainder of the barrel. The 800 is very high on my list of favorite pens. It's pretty close to being a perfect pen for me in regard to the size, in regard to the weight, in regard to the looks, the ink capacity. Basically a lot of check marks get checked, or a lot of boxes get checked for me, and it's a pen that I really, really enjoy. So, okay, let's go ahead and take a look at a quick writing sample from both of these pens. Let's go ahead and start with this Pelikan. A left oblique nib is essentially meant to be used when you're writing at a little bit of an angle. So we have the Pelikan M800. And the ink I'm using here is the Pelikan Edelstein Tanzanite. And you can see that when I'm using it, we'll say correctly, you kind of write at an angle, and you can see that it lays down a nice kind of thick line, but then when you go side to side, it's a little thinner. But you want to make sure that you're using it at the correct angle. If you are writing with it straight, it worked fine there, but sometimes it can be a bit spotty because the pen is really meant to be used at an angle. I'd say the ink flow for this nib is really nice. In regard to reverse writing, I guess, boy, you almost have to angle it the other way. I wouldn't necessarily say that a left foot oblique is the best thing to be using reverse writing, so I'm not even going to attempt that. And then in regard to fast writing, you can see that it just adds a nice amount of flair to it. So the compliments go to the nibmeister who did the work on this particular nib, because I feel that it is outstanding. And this is what the Edelstein bottles look like if you haven't seen it. You know what? I'm sorry. It was not the Tanzanite. It was the Aquamarine. That I actually had the Tanzanite out, but I think I switched to the Aquamarine because I wanted something a little bit more blue. And then in regard to the Aurora, I was going to use some Mont Blanc Irish Green. And something that I noticed is because I am just about out of this, my older bottle, and I bought a newer bottle. It's always interesting to see when there are changes in the packaging. And you can see here that Mont Blanc has recently changed the sticker, obviously, but then also something small, like on the cap, the kind of the silver band is wider around the outside on the newer ones than it is on the older ones. And I have another newer one as well, and it has the same kind of newer cap on it. So they changed a little bit of the cap design as well, but the shoe remains the same and identical. So here we go with the writing sample for the Aurora 80th anniversary. This is an 18 karat gold nib. I believe it's a medium. It feels like a medium. And here we go with a bit of a writing sample. It's very pleasant. It is decently smooth, but then has a little bit of feedback to it. You can get a little bit of line variation out of there. I'd say the ink flow is on the medium side for this medium nib. And in regard to some reverse writing, it is a little bit sharp, but then in regard to some fast writing, I've always enjoyed Aurora nibs. I do have a couple of their pens. That's probably a brand I should look at to pick up some more of, because the ones I have enjoyed a great deal. And the feed keeps up very well. Okay, so who would use this marketplace from the Pleasure of Writing as a seller? If you have an entire collection you're looking to sell, this would be an ideal place for that. Or if you're just looking to find new homes for some of your collection. Who would use this as a buyer? I'd say it would be someone who isn't necessarily looking for the best bargain, but really wants to have confidence in the transaction that they would be receiving a quality pen from a reputable seller who will handle any issues if they will arrive. I'll put a link in the notes below to the Pleasure of Writing website where you can learn all about their marketplace, as well as check out the new pens that they offer for sale. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.